it's like it doesn't automatically adjust.
So that is odd. Yeah. It looks like Sam and Ria's have auto-adjusted already, which is odd that yours hasn't. Let me just... there we go. Just had to pop it back and forth and it auto-adjusted. The sheet probably refreshed at some point,
gotcha.
so if that ever happens, just up it, down it again.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Righty. So, as was said, you can in the hedge. If you could just go ahead and you can add text, right, on this screen. So go ahead and fill in your aspirations of your actual entries there. I'm not too worried about it looking particularly uniform, right? So.
You want us to just write it?
Yep. So you can just go over to text in the left-hand side. I'd go with probably 18 or 22. And then I'll actually edit the ones for your needles and threads. See.
Are you moving things around, or is my computer being fucking crazy?
So when you type, basically it'll do that, and then you'll be able to move it back in place. The moment you click away, it'll kind of just get a bit odd. And it'll kind of drop in a different spot than where you actually wanted it. You should be able to click and slide it where you want it to go. If not, I can. Aw, your thread is love. Oop, that's what it is. Set. There we go. Needles and threads are in. F, are you able to edit the or to add some text there? Or?
I don't see how.
So if you go up to the top left, there's a little taskbar up there. If you go down to draw shape, and it'll pop out another thing, and you just go down to text. You can select that.
Aha!
Yep, and probably go with like size 20. 18, 20 should be fine. And so you guys will be able to, these will probably go pretty quick. You'll update them every session. Depending on, of course, whether they're finished or not, right? So if you actually complete an aspiration, you'll gain a beat. We'll be using group pool XP essentially, so everybody will raise up at an equal rate. So if, for example, all three of you escape the hedge, right, which is, well.
Oh, how do I edit that?
In Sam's case, decide whether you want to escape or not. Sorry?
I was trying to figure out how to type because every time I would click, the box would go away, and now like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of that.
There's probably like 20 boxes, right?
Yeah.
Each time you click, it'll do another thing. So just click, and then you should be able to type.
Not click the text
real fast. My dog is going a little crazy. I'm gonna take her out real fast. I'll be right back.
All good. All good.
While you're figuring this part out.
Oh man, how do you reselect the box though?
You just you'll have to swap back to the pointer instead of text. Yeah, it's an ordeal. But you have to just go back up and click the little pointer again, and then you'll be able to click it and drag it. But if you try and click again while you're still in text mode, it'll drop another one. Now, once you click back to the selector thing, you'll be able to actually click the text again and edit it if need be by double-clicking. Hey, there you go. Cool. So I will be keeping a track of all XP as well. Slide down here to XP. So here's this. This is the general way everything kind of increases. It also has the experience costs for you at the very bottom. So if you ever need to double check when it comes time to spend XP. XP goes up fairly slow in Chronicles. So, for example, with 3 people, you're going to need 15 experience or 15 dots, 15 beats, sorry, to gain 1 XP. But each of you will gain an XP at that point, since we're using the pool method. So pretty much when any of those go off, you'll gain a beat. Now, I need to go shut my window so that it stops cooking me alive. And if you guys need to do anything real quick, now's the time. And then we should be pretty much set. If you have any other questions, just let me know.
Yep.
I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back. So, everybody still here? me turn you up a little bit. You're a bit quiet. There we go.
Better?
Yep, I turned you up on my end, so it shouldn't be too bad.
Cool.
Alrighty. How's it going? Going pretty good?
It's been a day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Alright.
Just low liquid diet and taking lots of blood medication.
Oof. Does not sound pleasant.
I was lying about that. Or no, I just said it's been a day. I didn't say it was a pleasant day. So yeah, it's been a day.
Yeah, I could imagine. Are you gonna be good? Good to go with
Yeah,
every day?
actually, my character is gonna be quiet, especially at first around the new people. And so
Okay.
it'll be too much of an issue.
Yeah, as long as you're sure you're good. I don't want you guys getting yourselves out or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the other thing, let me pop up, is pretty huge. And of course it's like one of the two things that I don't have, three things actually, that I don't have handouts for. And that's going to be the actual pledge system. Do I have handouts for it?
Wait till Lucy gets back to us.
Yeah, we will. And I'll actually, while we're waiting, I can just throw that in there. For now, I'm just going to throw the actual mechanics in to a handout, and I'll fix it up later. See, this is the trick with it, with creating all these handouts, is there's just so much crap to each individual thing.
There's a lot in this game.
Yeah.
So much. Hello?
Look at all these handouts.
Yeah, so that's the tip of the iceberg. I ended up kind of focusing on basically everything else. Of course, that led to me forgetting about the three things that I definitely wanted to get in there, which was Neuromancy, Pledges, and the Hedge. I don't know how those were the three that I forgot about, because they're my favorite, but those are the three, apparently. But Pledges are pretty huge. They are, as far as I'm concerned, a colossal aspect of Changelings and Arcadia in general. Because they are kind of like baby contracts in a way, right? So they're pretty important. Let me just boop. Lucy, were you back?
Yep, just got back. Sorry, had to take out the buffer.
No problem. It's all good.
Are beats experience, or what's a beat?
So beats are baby experience, basically. Think of it like that. 5 beats become 1 XP, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So you'll gain those through filling aspirations, And that's fulfill or fail an aspiration. So, for example, if you don't escape the hedge, right, you would, if somehow you die there, for example, which of course wouldn't come up, eventually you'll escape the hedge, presumably. At that point, you would have fulfilled it, and you'll then make a new one at the end of that session. But for example, if you put something there which is very situational, and that situation is destroyed essentially. For example, save X from dying, right? And that person dies, you would have failed it. That counts as fulfilled. So at that point, you'd gain the beat. You failed, but it's still over with.
Okie dokie.
Any conditions, of course, right? Just as it says. Certain ones, like certain crazy ones, like literally going mad, you'll get beats whenever you do certain aspects of it, essentially, or roleplay that out, essentially. And this is another big one. There's no automatic dramatic failures in Chronicles like there is with World of Darkness, right? So if you fail a roll, you get to choose whether you make it a dramatic failure or not. That can be pretty drastic, especially for contracts.
What
It can
exactly
be-
is a dramatic failure?
Oh, it's a good time is what it is.
No.
So, for example, if we were to look at one of your things, Merc Blur, right? Let me slide on down to that. So with Merc Blur, right, all contracts have a listing of their success, exceptional success, which is if you get 5 or more successes, failure, and dramatic failure, right? So for example, if you were to roll Merc Blur, like earlier, right, and you failed it, right, normally you could just be like, all right, it fails, right, and that's it. Or, for example, if it's a particularly, loose situation, you're like, oh, I don't mind that happening right now, or I think that would be interesting to the story. Or even if it's like a really dangerous situation, you're like, you know what? I want to see what happens. You can choose to make a dramatic failure. You'll get a beat, right? And then you'll suffer the actual effects of that, right? Now, it won't necessarily... Yeah. So for that one, Merc Blur, light and color assail the changeling senses, and you gain the disoriented condition, right? Which is pretty rough.
I mean, I'm wizened, so I'll always get the disoriented condition.
Nice. Oh, and that brings me actually to another point as well. All of your contracts will have extra stipulations at the end after dramatic failure and stuff. They'll say, for example, elemental or wizened, or the different types of changeling. So for you, right, for Rhea, since she's wizened, she automatically gained that bonus. If it has a wizened bonus, you get that, right? So for you using Merc Blur, it completely cuts off all senses and just automatically gives them the disoriented condition if it succeeds, which is pretty great. It's really powerful. Of course, you also have the exceptional success where they also get deafened with both ears, which is just devastating. And then the other thing, which is really big for everybody, is the loopholes, right? So when you're spending glamour, you also have the option to utilize a loophole for contracts. So, for example, the one for Merc Blur, right? If you eat a creature's eye while invoking the contract, any creature's eye, right? It doesn't have to be your eye, right? You could buy a jar, right, of frog eyes, right? And just carry that around with you if you really wanted to, right? And just pop one in there and chomp it down, right? That loophole allows you to enact the contract without paying any glamour, right? So that can be, it can be very, very powerful. If, say, you have a royal contract you want to enact that costs like 3 glamour and you don't want to take 2 turns. I mentioned this to Lucid earlier, but if you have a contract that costs more glamour than you can spend per turn, then you're able to actually still enact it. It just takes as many turns as that would equate to. So if you can only spend 1 glamour per turn and it costs 2 glamour, it'll take you 2 turns to do it. Nothing will stop
How
you
do
from
you
actually
figure
doing it. It
out
just takes time.
glamour?
Hey Emma, you're
Right.
very, very like quiet.
It is
I'm gonna.
more quiet now.
How do you figure out how much glamour you have?
Yeah. So you start with, I believe, 10 or 11.
It's 10 if you have one word, 11 if you have two, but that's maximum glamour. That's not how much we might currently.
Yeah, I think you start with half max. Let me double check.
Do we need to specify that on our sheet somehow?
Yep. So if you go to your sheet, you see, this is why I always do like a session 0 type thing like this. I'm not that worried about getting a ton done today. Because I'd rather make sure everybody's comfortable with the game first. If that's what this needs to be, that's okay.
Okay.
Right? So if I remember right, and I think the Giles Vipond has it set already. No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. Let me pop that open. So I think at start you get, let me see, how much glamour do you get at the start of the game? It doesn't list it. I know it lists it somewhere, but I don't see it. So I'm gonna say, given the fact you just escaped Arcadia, one way or another, you're gonna have max. So in that case, you'll have either 10 or 11, right? If you have 2 word, it'll be 11. And so just mark them with an X if you have it, right? So the cap, right? That's the one thing that frustrates me with this sheet, is you can't actually change the glamour, right? So for Rhea, for example, you have 1 word, so you would have 10, right? That would be your max, and I believe it has 20 boxes, right?
Yeah, it looks like it.
So 10 would be your cap, and you currently have the cap, right? You can't gain more glamour than that, right? So if you found a goblin fruit, for example, you wouldn't actually be able to gain any more glamour. Now, if you then say spent glamour, right? Say you spend 2 for a contract, you would just click it off, right? Keeping in mind you only have 10 cap, and then you could eat the goblin fruit to gain that 2 back, for example. So just mark it if you do have it, right?
Okay.
And as usual, that's kind of the feel for everything. Another big thing is just in general, I will probably remind you at certain points with really important roles or things that seem relevant to your character, you can always spend willpower, right? The only things you can't spend willpower on are attribute rolls. So if you're rolling to notice something with wit's composure, right, you won't actually be able to add willpower to that. If it's a straight attribute roll, say if it's just you literally lifting something, exerting physical prowess, right? Unless it's something athletic, like something really particular, like say pole vaulting or something, that would fall under athletics, or deadlifting would fall under athletics. But like shoving a door open, right, that would be a strength stamina roll, right? Just to show your physical prowess. You would not be able to actually add willpower. There's not a lot of situations where you would end up rolling those, but for example, breaking points and stuff, which are going to be another huge thing, again, may not come up immediately here because your characters are still pretty off from being so close to Arcadia, and you haven't actually been back in the mortal world yet. So a lot of things are going to be a bit funny first session in that regard. Just to really show the fact that once you get out, everything's going to feel a lot shittier. You're still not quite out yet, by all means, right? You're in the hedge, but you haven't really been brought low by being back in the mortal world yet, which is essentially what it should feel like. So that should be reflected in this session. Now let me see. And I was going to say earlier, another huge thing, super big, are the actual pledges, right? I don't know if anyone's read up on pledges yet, but they are colossal for changelings. And any fey creature, like changeling, hobgoblin, true fey, gentry, any of them can enact sealings, oaths, and bargains, right? You'll find the pledges on, what is it, page 209, right? Now there's kind of the baseline one, the sort of baby pledge, which anyone can do. It's not a huge deal, but it can be made pretty useful. And those are sealings, right? Sealings mean you can literally, if say someone says they'll do something, you can magically hold them to that, right? So if say you're hanging around at home and someone says, hey, I'll go and get groceries, is there anything you want? And you say, oh yeah, bring me back some chocolate ice cream. And they say, okay, yeah, I'll do that for you. You can seal that, right? And that will literally beat them up essentially in some different ways for not fulfilling that. So if they come back like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about your ice cream, they've not broken the seal, right? So that has various consequences, and of course I can always affect that. But baseline, it could be like the loss of a willpower point, actual bashing damage, right? So when they break that, like they're walking out of the store on the way home, they've broken that, right? They're not bringing you back the ice cream. They could just fall flat on their face and bust their nose, right? Or, for example, the next scene they show up around you, they'd have a 1-die penalty to literally everything, right? Or a 2-die penalty to a specific thing. And you can kind of choose what the consequences will be, right? So if you want someone to actually feel physical pain, right, you can actually inflict a point of bashing. You can also spend a point of glamour to strengthen it, right? Willpower, in addition to the glamour point. That is pretty big. At that point, it can actually do some dangerous shit, right? 3 points of bashing, a point of lethal, right? Loss of abilities to spend willpower for a scene, 2-die penalty on everything, 5-die to a specific roll, right? So, for example, say you're in a social situation, right? And you ask someone to not make you look bad, right? Say you're a bit argumentative with them, right? You can say, hey, don't make me look bad, all right, in front of these guys. And they'll say, okay, sure, right? You can seal that. You can then spend a willpower to make it serious, right? And then you could stipulate basically that, if they do make you look bad, they get a -5 to do so, right? And so say they actually roll to try and spread some bad info about you, they'd get a huge minus to it, and it would end up potentially backfiring on them, right? It's the type of situation where I would probably step in and say, okay, that's going to be a dramatic failure, right? Even given the huge minus. Now the big one, right, for sealings is if you spend a point of willpower, you can also choose to use a contract on them, automatically activate when they break the seal, right? That can be huge. It can kill them, essentially, depending on what contract you go with. You could go with one, oh yeah, sure. Sorry, I just saw that.
It's cool. You don't have to do it right this second.
Oh yeah, it's no problem. Where was I? So depending, of course, Merc Blur again is pretty potent. So say you ask them, don't get hurt doing something, right? Or, don't fall off the roof, right? And they fall off the roof and you've sealed it, and for some reason are being really nefarious about it. You could make it so that Merc Blur will trigger if they do fall off the roof. So they'd fall off the roof in that case, probably really hurt themselves, and would then be blind and deaf for a short amount of time, right? Of course, that would probably really, really traumatize someone, right? Suddenly all of their senses just went away, pretty much. So you can do some pretty crazy things, right? You could also, there's some elemental contracts which can basically immediately do damage, right? So you could use those, right? Now, baseline, you'd be able to do like 3 bashing or a lethal, or with certain ones, you would be able to light them on fire, for example, right? That's a pretty pretty big deal. So always keep ceilings in mind. That can be used. It only costs 1 glamour. Other fey creatures can use that on you to hold you to things. Now, here's the thing. You can also break those without having to follow through and without any consequences. You can spend a glamour to break a ceiling immediately, right? Doesn't matter. Now, if they up it, you have to spend just as much. So if they spend a willpower to make it really big, you have to spend a willpower to even it back out again, right? So it also doesn't matter whether they try to succeed or not. If they fail to do it, right? Say it's like, okay, protect this person, right? And you seal that, and they fail to. Doesn't matter whether they, tried. If they fail, it will trigger, right? So, now the other thing is, which probably won't come into play a lot, is huntsman. That would be a much later thing. Oaths then are the next biggest thing. These are going to be very, very serious things, right? When you use an oath, that is permanent, right? Now the book, personally, I quite despise the wording in the book for oaths, right? Because it makes it sound like permanent is duration-wise, right? No matter what. But what it's trying to say, as far as I'm concerned, as far as a lot of the things I've read up on, is that basically if you make an oath with someone, something, or to do something, that oath will always mark your soul, essentially, right? That will always be an oath you have made. And say someone is using some type of weird magic, they might be able to figure that out, essentially. People will understand the fact that, say, if you guys are a motley, they'll be able to sense that connection between you, right? Now, that can be dangerous because it could be used to track you, right? Say a huntsman is looking for a specific changeling and someone has an oath with them. They find that one that has an oath with them, they can track that person down then, right? Using that oath. So it's a big deal. Oaths are nothing to joke with, right? They are the big business contracts, essentially, right? Between two fey beings, right? So if you really, really, really want to make a serious commitment to another player, to an NPC, anything really, even enemies in some cases, you can make an oath with someone that of, I'm going to kill you, and they can also, make that oath of, I'm also going to try and kill you, right? Now, of course, that'll end when one of you dies, but you will always be marked by the fact that you made that oath, right? So, for example, if someone used some kind of magic to, pull up their bones and, use that, they would be able to track that back to you, right? So oaths are huge. When you're basically spending most of your life running away from the Fae, it can be pretty serious. And also, you can't be, magicked into making an oath. You can literally torture someone into agreeing to it, but you can't use magic to make them say, oh yes, I agree, by speaking through them, essentially. They would have to willingly agree to it, right? But, of course, willingly also includes you, breaking their legs, right, and stuff like that until they agree, right? So you can do some potentially nefarious stuff to get someone to agree to an oath. This is going to be one of the big things as well with you guys, is you guys are starting out, of course, with really, really messed up memories. You guys are a motley, which is one of the main types of oaths, is a motley oath. It's a pretty big deal because you guys also don't know the exact stuff of your oath, the exact wording and stuff like that, right? So here's the other things you're going to get out of that, though. Oaths can be quite useful. For example, you guys always know where you are, right? So if, say, Rumi is trying to find Sam, he can just find her. He can, just go to her, essentially. He, knows where she is, right? So you know where each other are, essentially. You can, just know what direction to go to find them, right? And that's essentially the main benefit of your current oath, right? Now, if you ever suffer like a big setback or a big issue or inconvenience regarding that oath, you'll get a beat as well. And that's like once a session you can have that happen. So say you're going to essentially need to protect each other, not abandon each other. For example, though, if one of you is in a situation where you can escape yourself, but it means leaving the other two behind, and it's like, okay, well, if I do that, I'm going to break the oath, right? That would get you a beat, right? So, but the other thing is, breaking those also is permanent. If you break an oath, literally every fey creature that meets you knows that you broke an oath. Just automatically. They know that you are literally someone they probably don't want to deal with in general. You're going to be a bit of a black sheep in that regard.
Kind of an interesting story aspect, though.
Yeah, it can be huge. I had a Changeling campaign way back where I was a player, right? And one of the other players broke the Motley Oath, right? And was just devastated by it, right? Now, if that was towards the end of the campaign, right? And she kind of didn't have a choice. She had been caught by a keeper, right? Who was willing to do some horrible things, basically murder her, or worse, arguably, drag her back to Arcadia, right? And back to her original keeper, which would have been really, really horrific. She had a really fucked up keeper who literally tortured a bunch of his other subjects. And so she was in a situation where she had to choose. Did she want to uphold the Motley Oath or, survive, essentially, right? And she chose to break it, right? The consequence of that was she got back, and before she even got back, right, her being out in the hedge, captured by this keeper, the moment she actually agreed and broke that oath, literally everybody that was part of that oath, no matter where they were, knew that in that moment that she had broken the oath.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, for example, if you guys do that, right, and you don't realize it, but Rumi has the potential to help you or save you, right, and he runs off alone and abandons you guys and breaks the oath, right, without, say he has an option to go get help, right, that will save you guys, right, that wouldn't necessarily break it, right, because he's going to save you in the long run, right? He's doing that to help you, right? Because say it's a situation where if he were to charge in, right, to try and help one of you, he'd just get caught and you'd all be caught and it'd be pointless, right? That it really depends on the situation. And as far as I'm concerned, intent to some degree, right? If you don't think doing something's going to break the oath, it won't necessarily. But if it can go the other way too. If you're like, oh no, that won't break it, and you just don't realize it, but you have flagrantly broken the oath, right? It'll still break it. But in most cases, intent will come into play. So it's very big to keep in mind. Again, so say you make an oath, right, to join a freehold. That's another one of the big ones. So once you join the freehold, you're going to make like an oath to, be a member of that freehold, probably not do certain things, not like flagrantly murder someone, right? That's a part of the freehold, without valid reason to do so. And that's the other thing. Wording is big, right? Most oaths, you want to be very, very careful of the wording. If you guys ever make an oath, I am going to copy down every word of it, right? From the moment you're like, okay, this is the wording, right? I will ask you what the wording is, and I will copy that down, and we'll follow through with that, right?
Now, you've said
So-
we don't remember, but we know we have an oath to each other. Do we know
Yep.
what the words of that are? Do we know what the terms of our
Essentially.
oath?
You understand most of it just because of the fact that being in an oath is knowing the oath, essentially, to a large degree, right? Because it is so very tied to basically your soul, right? So essentially, you guys are basically bound to an oath to protect each other, try and keep each other safe to the best of your ability. And that's pretty much it, really. Basically, stick together, don't abandon each other in danger. It's pretty much a basic motley oath. Is just be there for each other when the other person needs you, right? Now, this one's going to be a bit loose because you guys, even with it being such a big oath, you guys still don't remember all of it, which is once you get back, you guys will find out that is very, very odd, right? Extremely odd. For something to be able to suppress your memories of an oath is huge, as far as I'm concerned, right? Um, but you guys have a general sensation of what it is, of don't abandon each other, don't explicitly try and hurt each other, right? Now, if you were to accidentally do something, of course, that won't apply, right? It is specifically intending to harm someone or abandon someone, to abandon them, right? Now, if you're, again, like earlier, if you were to, like, go off to get help, that wouldn't necessarily count. But if you are like, no, you know what, screw it, I don't care about this person, they've pissed me off, that would absolutely count, right? So pretty much just get each other's back and you'll be safe, right? But if you do anything with the intent to harm or, otherwise cause distress, right? Now, of course, getting in an argument doesn't count unless you seriously injure them. Like if you cause a clarity breaking point, right? That would be bad, right? That would absolutely count. Of course, again, only with intent, right? So that's the other thing is, I love the art for this one, we also have the clarity attacks and breaking points. So these are going to be essentially situations, things that are going to be really, really bad, right? So if you encounter a true fae, right, a member of the gentry, essentially, that could very well in itself be a clarity attack, clarity breaking point, right? There are certain things that will allow other things to attack your mind, attack your clarity, right? Which is going to be pretty rough. And now if I remember right, you want to roll low on this, right? And this is one of the few things that you basically want to roll low on, right? Now, of course, the clarity track has like all kinds of different aspects to it. It can kind of be a bit funky at times. It's a lot better than Werewolf, though, where you actually have to stay right in the middle, otherwise you're fucked. But generally speaking, certain situations, for example, again, if you encounter a true fae, that would be a very big problem. This is the sample breaking points. So these are the ones to keep in mind. There may be, of course, other situations where I deem it suitable for you to make a clarity roll. But generally speaking, these are the ones I'm going to be watching for, right? And that is basically, by severity. Right? Now, there is also benefits from clarity. You also have kenning, which is another one of those kind of semi-hidden changeling abilities. This is very, very useful, very, very powerful. It's basically, say if you want to do it, and I'm going to roll it in secret, right? You'll never actually see whether your roll succeeded or not. And this is one of the situations where I might go for a dramatic failure, right? Where it might be a bit out of your control, because personally, I think that would be suiting story-wise. But this is quite good. Kenning is something you're going to want to keep in mind. You guys all start with suitable clarity to use kenning. But
is there a way to recover clarity?
Yes, I believe you can actually spend XP. Let me double check that. Clarity damage. So I believe this handout has that. Look how pretty these handouts are. I love them. Now let me see. Recovering. And that's the other big thing, right? Is when you have damage clarity, and I forget because they changed clarity a lot from first edition, which is one of the things I forgot about. But the more fucked your clarity is, basically, the worse your situation is going to be. Literally, at 3 and below, you're going to hallucinate, right? And it can be pretty bad, right? So the lower you go, the more insane you also go, essentially, which can be pretty rough. Now, where is the healing stuff?
I
Been a
think it's
while
at the bottom. It says spending time with your touchstone.
Yeah, there we go. Touchstones are another thing that aren't going to come up this session, but we're going to be doing a lot of stuff to get the next session set up. Which, in fact, given how much there is, and Emma, are you doing good? You were sounding a little bit rough earlier. Hello?
I'm alright.
Okay. But if you guys want, we can do this as a session 0, essentially, basically just continue going over things, making sure everyone's good with all of the rules, and then we can actually play next session. It's up to you guys, because we have plenty of time here.
I mean, I find that I get the most out of, like, the best way I learn rules is actually playing. And kind of just diving in and dealing with things as they come up. I would say, like, since you know the rule system better, if, like, there's an area where something like portaling or kenning, like, might be useful that we don't necessarily know about it or might forget, like, reminders early on in the game might be nice. But I learned much better kind of jumping right into play than just kind of going over stuff.
Cool. Yeah, then in that case, bargains aren't anything we need to worry about just yet. Those are kind of, once you're out of the hedge, you'll be able to make bargains with mortals, essentially. They won't necessarily know what you're doing, but it's kind of a mutually beneficial thing, and if they agree to it, it kind of helps you guys hide from the hunters. Essentially, they'll be trying to drag you back to Arcadia, potentially. Aside from that, most things aren't going to come up this session, so we'll be pretty much well set to go. So with that, are there any other general questions?
None here.
No?
I can't think of any right now.
Okay. And of course, again, like, I'll go for reminders. The hedge is, like, one of the few places where kenning isn't necessarily going to be that useful, because basically everything there is magic, right? So kenning's not going to be really a big thing there. Once you guys get out of the hedge, it'll be super useful. It'll be the type of thing that can really determine whether you get tricked by someone or something or not. So, in the meanwhile, as long as you guys keep, let me make sure I don't forget to close those. As long as you guys keep that kind of stuff in mind, you should be all set. Let me go and swap your token real quick.
I actually already did it. I just swapped the image.
Oh, the actual,
Like, I could undo that if you want to do the token in the token thing and have the full image, we could do that.
Oh, it's fine. I have the tokens made up. It's just a different style.
Oh, okay, yeah, then go ahead and...
But let's see. But yeah, I can swap that one out. Let me see. Let me just pop over to there and do that real quick. There we go. Perfect. All right. I'll just...
Oh yeah, because you had the double-sided tokens too, didn't you?
I'm going to be adding those once we have once I have all the stuff set up for it. But at the moment
once we are no longer in the
yeah. Once we're actually out of the hedge, I'll be using those. There we go. Should work now. Just pop over to the other one. But yeah, like I said, session 1 is going to be pretty hedge focused, actually, of you guys just kind of dealing with the escape and stuff, and kind of also getting to know your characters largely. You'll be essentially re-encountering each other for the first time, so I expect a lot of actual, like, kind of discourse between you guys to occur, and if it doesn't, then I have plenty of other stuff set up anyway. So, and again, this might be a bit of a short session. Generally speaking, I'm going to aim for 2 hours. So we'll probably be done at 12, if that suits everybody.
It's good.
Work.
Alrighty. So, if you guys are all set, then I will start recording. Alright, boop, boop, boop. Just getting my recording stuff set up. Sorry, I gotta actually turn all of it on. There's like 5 things. Alright. Yeah, that's going. I hate that. There's no countdown with obs, which is frustrating. Alright. All good? Cool. Alright, recording in. I'm going to clap so it'll be loud so that I sync it. 3, 2, 1. Alright, welcome everyone to Changeling. I am here together with F, Lucid, and Emma. We're going to be starting off with a general description of the characters. The campaign will be following their adventures through the hedge and back into the mortal world. We start off rather simply, diving in with players in the hedge, awakening for the first time in their memory since their capture outside of Arcadia. Can you guys all see?
No, it's black. for
Nope.
me.
Oh wait, down at the very.
Yep. All the way down.
Oh, okay.
All right, you guys have vision, yeah?
Yes.
Alrighty. So, you guys find yourselves in a rather wild and overgrown area of the hedge. The entire area just screams malice. The scent is overflowing with vegetation, and the light trickles down through the trees and the vines. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, do change the names in there. And you guys hear a heavy thunking noise in front of you as you all begin to slowly come to. Heavy laughter on very rare occasion as you guys begin to awaken, walking as if sleepwalking. It's like a dream when you see the thorns that occasionally with each step you take tear away at your flesh and seem to drain at your mind even. So let's go ahead and get started with Rumi. Lucid.
Rumi stumbled through the brambles and the thorns, feeling his memories being torn from him even as they scattered about his head. He was a large being, standing at 6'4". From a distance, the majority of his flesh looked to be made of some kind of dark, almost onyx material. But on a closer glance, much like the night sky, you could see colors swirling within. Reds, purples, blues, flames burning beneath, and the hint of celestial comets and planets and suns. His head, though, always was burning, always aflame, morphed into flesh, with the very stars themselves floating above where his hair should be. He had sunken eyes and the kind of glance that made you think he had seen far too much over far too long. Internally, things were scattered. Things that were to come, things that would never come, things that had happened in other worlds. All these visions that he had been subjected to again and again and again swirled in his head. He knew that once he had been a man, an immigrant, freshly come to America at the end of the Great War with his family, born in New York City, raised among a loving household, whose faces he could barely remember. Did he have, was it 3 siblings? Was it 7? Or none? Did he exist? Too many timelines, too many worlds swirling in his mind. There had been a girl, no, 2. He had been engaged to a woman who burned as bright in life as he did now. Smart, cunning, fun and playful, but there had been another girl, not of the world but of his dreams. And only once those two intersected, his dreams and the world, when he had gone to look at the stars and the mountains above his home. But she wasn't real. The second she came within his grasp, his flesh turned to flames and the laughter of his master echoed through his ears. He knew that he had been bound, had been turned into something not human, something more and something less. He was flesh made to fire and slave to the will of another, forced to lure others into Arcadia just as he had been lured there. Light in the distance, a lover long gone, some deep, dark desire hidden within their hearts. He would appear to them and guide them into the swamps and bogs of his master, only for them to fall into the waters where they would dissolve. Not just their flesh, not just their bones, their very souls, their memories, their essence, until nothing but a soupy vitriol of cosmic energy remained, at which point his master would come and burn those remains in his fire to see visions. But Rumi also saw visions, and eventually managed to put together a way to escape. Eventually managed to glean what was coming for him and what his master would do. And escape he did, just like in the vision. He had scattered memories of being gone again. Was it the hedge that he remembered? Outside of his master's domain, at the border between humanity and the Fae? Or was it the world? It was so different. The noises, the sounds, the people, nothing was the same. But then here he was again in the hedge, he thought, with his flesh and his memories and his soul being torn by the brambles and the thickets. But perhaps there wasn't any world anymore. Perhaps there was only the hedge. Or perhaps there had only ever been the hedge, and everything else was a lie. Memories seeded by the flame. Memories seeded by others. He wasn't sure, but he trudged on, deep in his core knowing that this was not the end, that he would escape again.
Very good. As you begin to come to me, you see 2 figures walking alongside you, essentially, almost on a line, however. And you see a huge figure before them and yourself, which now as you come to, you seem to realize you are following, though you do not know why. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to Rhea.
Rhea is a young girl, a teen just on the cusp of adulthood, yet too far from such maturity to linger on the notion. She looks out of place and out of sorts. Her thick, wavy hair is a mess of what looks like strokes of paint pulled thickly down, an unseen canvas that fades away from dark purple to a bright pink at the ends. Light skin shows similar qualities of a living painting, as if brushstrokes lined her features to define each line and hue. Her eyes are strokes of neon pink, with the illusion of luminescence, slight impasto to create depth within the spheres. Each movement changed the direction of the strokes that comprised her form, as if an invisible artist were animating her painting in real time. She looks frightened and on the edge as her eyes dart about. Her keeper warned her of leaving. There was an addicting quality to her life in Arcadia. Her keeper made sure of it, and it only made Rhea feel all the more uneasy about her decision. The memories were slipping from her mind like wet paint dripping off a canvas where paint began to shroud her durance and her reality. She was an artist, that much she was sure. Her own brushstrokes crafted gateways to spirit away those who were just like her. Her keeper was a contract kidnapper, and Rhea had been made to be the prized accomplice. Out of all her keeper owned, she seemed to have too much of a liking for Rhea, often claiming to love her as if she were her own child. Mind games. Manipulation. It all had to be that. Arcadia was not her home. Her keeper was not her family. Her family. It was just as veiled of a memory as Arcadia was now. Was it the dream? What is it? Was it a dream? Was it her true life? Her keeper was her savior. No, she was not. But her family, Maisie, her best friend was just on the other end. Her best friend. Oh, she was like the anchor in her mind, reminding her of the life that she felt so paper thin. There was no confidence in Rhea's stride, only conflict. She looks behind her, at nothing in particular, as she momentarily debates on her decision to leave again. Oh, to leave again.
As you begin to look about and come to again, walking, you, as with Rumi, begin to realize once again where you are, the hedge, the thorns, always seemingly creeping closer as if reaching out to tear away at you. You hear something. Yes, master. As then we move on to Sam.
Sam moves forward through the brush, looking, watching, unsure of why she's here, what feels like again. Cracks spread across her frail skin that glow a bright blue and shimmer like the sun on the water's surface. Her eyes shine like the sun shining through the water, and her hair glows a bright blue in her face. She constantly has to push it behind her ears, but as she does, she just keeps walking forward, another step, one more. There are two others in front of her, and she keeps getting lost in the hair of the one directly in front. It ripples and it moves much like a paintbrush across a canvas, and it enraptures Sam. As she's lost and just meditating while watching all of this, she begins to think of home, if it was home, if it is home. Her mom, her dad, her brother, the places she used to go and the things she used to do, all the swimming she loved. All that felt so distant, so far away, so fragmented. She wasn't sure what was real and what was this place. she always felt different from everyone else. She always felt like she didn't belong, that she wasn't right. And as she thinks on it now, she's really not sure it's because of this place, it's because of its touch, it's because of its influence, or if it's because of something else. But she continues to walk forward and forward, one step at a time, following these two in front of her, crossing her arms in front of her body, and cold and fear. Not sure of where they're going or what's going to happen, but I'm sure of where else to go. She walks.
Okay. You are a little bit quiet. I was able to hear, but just going forward, it is pretty low. But as you guys continue to walk forward, again, like the others before you coming to, you hear the heavy plod before you as you all walk. The brambles, although they reach towards you, they never quite get close enough to do more than a little nick and cut here and there, as if spreading apart and making a path, as small as it is, just big enough for the creature in front of you to make its way. As you all come to, regaining your awareness and understanding the fact that for some reason you are following this creature, you taken its form, huge, easily twice as tall as the tallest of you, heavily muscled, a beak easily 4 or 5 feet long, but spiked with teeth along either edge, up or down. The very scent of it is enough to make one retch, like rotting flesh. Somehow even worse, in a way. Like feces, even, in spots. Its pallid coloration is a marked difference from the hedge around you, and everywhere it goes, the hedge ahead, which seems fairly lively and bright and hungry, seems to shift ever so slightly, becoming a bit darker, a bit more sinister. As you again come to, you see its large, pallid head turn towards you, the milky whites of its eyes gazing over you all as you follow it. Ah, yes, yes. Slaves to market. Puppets to slaves. For master to the market. Come, puppets, come. You hear it bellow, chattering its colossal beak as it seems to chew on something that, upon closer inspection, almost resembles an arm. It plods forward as you each step after it, but coming to, you begin to slow your step, speed it. What do you do?
Ria's gonna look between, like, the two of them next to her, kind of like, are you seeing this? But not really saying anything right now. Particularly eyeing the hand. Does it look very human?
Yeah, upon closer inspection, you come to realize that it does indeed look particularly human, but perhaps far more disturbing is the fact that it does not look particularly large. You would be quite easily able to gauge from the size of it that it would at most be maybe a young tween, if not a child. Or at least the remnant thereof.
And they're clearly following behind it, like the thing is hurting them or having
As if
them.
ducklings following the mother. Although
Rumi,
now, as you come to, you have no idea why.
Rumi tries to summon and order the visions floating through his head into some semblance of sense, to see if he understands or knows what this thing is. Can I do any kind of like intelligence, like occult or something like?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and give me an int occult roll. Okay, yeah. So, although everything is quite hazy still as you're coming to, this thing is wrong, but familiar. You recognize that from what little memory you have of other creatures in your keeper's domain, and from the very scattered memories you are now beginning to pull up of your first time through the hedge, this would be a hobgoblin of some sort. Though why exactly you are following it, and what it means about slaves, is unclear. What do you all do?
I think eventually Ria's going to kind of straighten her stance a little bit, look behind her, then back at the hobgoblin, and try to address it. Hey, uh, where'd you say we're going?
Yeah, you all stop, presumably, as the creature comes to a very sudden halt. It tilts its head up a bit from the left, and the entire neck seems to swish around and level its beak towards you. Puppet speaks. Puppet speaks. It begins shattering its large beak before it tosses the remaining bit of arm up into the air and swallowing it down, as if a pelican almost, before it levels its beak towards you again. Why does Puppet speak?
Because Poppet wants an answer?
It brings its head much closer to you, putting its head almost sideways to your face, its large, milky eye unmoving, seemingly taking you in. Puppet, strange. Puppets don't talk. But, yes. Puppets to market, puppets to slaves, for master.
Who is master?
It seems to almost recoil back from you at that question. Puppet wrong. Puppet does not know master. It then pushes its head against your torso and then looks at you again after pushing you back a good couple feet. What is wrong with Puppet? Why does Puppet not know master?
It's kind of one of those memory blanks. It happens. Puppet just, can't always remember.
It then levels its gaze towards the other two, towards Sam and Rumi. Rumi, as you glance around, as far as you can tell, the entire area is, anything but barren. The thorns block most of your gaze, vines covered in them, small, scraggly bushes, trees that seem to go up higher than you can actually see, and yet the light still trickles down in spots. And as you look outwards down this path, it seems to almost just fade away after a certain point, as the creature gazes then at you. Puppet! This puppet. Fine? No, no, strange puppet. Why are puppets strange? It seems to be beckoning at you as it plods a heavy step closer, seemingly tilting its head which way there and again, questioningly at you.
Rumi makes eye contact with it for like just holding its gaze, but not really saying anything, trying to get a read of it.
This thing, go ahead and give me a wit's composure real quick.
As it steps forward, Sam is gonna step back, just kind of in fear behind the other two, and just watches.
Yeah. As Sam kind of keeps a bit of a distance, Rumi, looking this thing over and judging from its confusion and its general demeanor, it seems very confused and not particularly bright. It would be much of a stretch to assume you might be able to mess with it a bit in some way, though as stupid as it outright seems, it does not look weak.
Rumi just kind of continues to play dumb while it examines him.
What is wrong with Puppet? Puppet is strange. Puppet is wrong. Puppet's back to Master. For checking. For fixing. Yes. Puppet's no to market. Puppet's back home. It seems to nudge you, Rumi, and then you, Rhea, being in front of Sam. Go, back home, back to Master.
Oh, you just want us to go and find Master and make sure he's gonna check us all up and everything's right?
You, yes. Back to Master. Back to
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
Okay,
You know what? You've got to take the others to market, right?
It snaps down its jaw, beak even, next to your head, and chitters again. No. Back home, Arcadia. Back to Master. Yes, fix the puppet. Then sell. Back to market to slaves. Yes.
You know what? Maybe you will get in trouble if Master finds out that we're defected.
It kind of sits back a bit at that.
As the two of them are talking, Rumi tries to whisper to Sam, hide.
Hey, Sam, what do you do?
At that, she's kind of looking up at the creature, a bit frozen, as it seems to be going through its evil panic. As its gaze is focused on Rhea, Sam is going to shift behind her and try to hide in the brush.
Alrighty. Go ahead and give me a stealth dexterity roll, if you would. Alrighty. Let me just check something real quick. Alrighty, yeah. You slip into the brush. Go ahead and describe what that looks like, as presumably you dim, perhaps, even the light between your cracks, as you slip into the brush and become somehow less obvious.
Yeah. So she just is using Rhea as distraction. In a moment that this hobgoblin is looking around.
Sorry, it's
shifting
breaking up really bad
head
for some
around.
reason.
Could you try moving to a different room or anything?
No, I can't.
It's all good. It's all good. It's a little bit more even now. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. You're good. So as she's watching this creature focus on Rhea, and as its head is shifting around rapidly, and it just seems a bit confused and panicked, in a time where it moves its head, Sam just very quickly moves behind Rumia and slides into the bushes next to him.
Yeah.
During that time, she'll do what she can to dim the light that she gives off, but she's quickly gonna try to cover herself in mud and dirt to
Yeah, you gain a slightly odd sensation as kind of the very atmosphere around you shifts. The brush around you seems to almost fade a slightly different color, as if almost similar to your own shade. And as the light kind of dims with your intent, it doesn't seem to notice you slip to the side. What were you doing, Rumi?
As she does that, this is the custom Kith power ability that we set up.
Yes.
As she does that, as she steps away, Rumi channels the lure deep inside that he had used so many times, and the flames in his hair and that royal inside of his body dim and warp for a second, and out of his shadow emerges a reflected copy of Sam, an image meant to look exactly like her where she stood. And this is a versus roll against the creature's resolve plus investigation to tell the difference.
Very nice. Alrighty. Alright, yeah, you quite easily make a very convincing image. As the thing, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, once the image seems to have coalesced, it's going to take off, just go sprinting in the opposite direction into
into the hedge, yes. The creature looks up at a start, having been kind of distracted by Ria's comment. Puppet! No, Puppet, come back! As it begins to storm off towards her, crashing an entire tree over to the side, breaking through the brush and the thorns, which seemed almost move out of its way at times. The figure fades off into the distance, and you can hear the thudding moving slowly away, and the crashing of brush around it.
Rumi looks at the other two and quickly says, "Quickly, run back. We need to get out of here."
Which way?
Anyway.
Oh, you're all right then.
You are most certainly on no such trod, but the small path does seem to go on ahead, if you were to chase that way. The creature has gone off another direction.
Okay.
Is that what you do?
Reed's actually going to follow Rumi wherever he ends up running it. Or if he doesn't run, then she's probably go off the path a little.
Rumi will, I guess, just like try to make sure they're following and take off down the path.
Alrighty, yeah. You guys charge off.
Sam
Finally,
is slow to follow up first, but will then start running faster to catch.
yeah, you guys run. And finally, the three of you. I'm going to move your tokens real quick. It'll be dark for a second. You guys run, and as you do, the demeanor of the area around you shifts with the levity of that creature being gone. Finally, you find yourselves in a slightly tucked away area. Can you see there? Yes?
Yeah, got to kind of move around a little bit and zoom out a lot to find it, but can see it.
Yeah, sorry.
Make sure that, I think Tat mentioned to try and make sure you're moving him over too.
Yep, yeah, he should be good. He's tied to Rhea. So anything she sees, and as long as I do that, it should center.
Coolio.
Shift click to kind of get these cameras over there.
You guys finally come to a rest, exhausted from quite a long run. You could hear the bellows and the wails of the creature far, far behind you now. But now, a bit later, it seems to fade off into the distance. You find yourselves in a quiet nook under a downed tree, the thorns that seem to scrabble along it, not quite close enough to tear into you. And the area fairly concealed. You all breathe a sigh of relative relief that the creature is gone, and as you look upon each other, you have a sensation of familiarity, as if these are people you know, and merely looking at each other, you can understand each other's names, instinctually even. The bond between you is rather clear, although you do get the sensation that something muddles it. You have an oath together, the details of which bind you, and they certainly keep you from harming one another, intentionally at least, but beyond that, something obfuscates it. What do you all do now that you are in a calm situation?
Rumi looks back and forth between the two, and the glowing, fiery constellation above his head kind of dims a little bit as he huffs and puffs to catch his breath. And when he speaks, the booming command that was there a moment ago has disappeared to be replaced by a more comforting but a more alien voice. Sam? Rhea, how do I know you? Who are you? Who am I? What is this place?
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's kind of trying to figure out that. I feel it too. We got some sort of oath going on, apparently. So we've met before. Hey!
That's something, at least.
Well, at least we're among good company, right?
An oath, you say? What the?
You feel it?
Why
you
is? I feel something, but why is your hair like this? And why do you glow? What? What
Oh.
what are we again? I cannot make it. I do
Oh
not understand.
boy. I don't know. It's all kind of a blur. I'm not really sure. I think
Are we man or fae or something? No, something in between. We are. I'm sorry. There's just too much. Rumi says as he kind of sits down, catching his breath, and like massaging one of his temples.
Yeah, the relative comfort you are all in begins to almost relax the hedge around you as it becomes slightly less aggressive, less thorny, although they do linger ever so closely as if waiting for the moment that you slip and fall onto one of the thorns. But with the levity again, the tree trunk seems to be less spiky, less rough. The rocks you sit upon seem a bit more comforting, a bit more welcoming even, as you all become more relaxed.
So we don't remember much of anything, but what are we doing now?
I remember some things. I remember painting. Painting. Well, look at me. Of course. She's referencing to her painterly self. And of course with each movement it looks like the strokes are changing.
Rumi looks at Rhea, jaw agape at the swirling color of her like watercolor self, as it were. Maybe oils, I'm not sure. And then over towards Sam and kind of like cocks his head for a minute, and then he looks down at his own hands and watches the swirl of inky blue and purple and red blending almost into blackness inside of his own arms. And then he says, yes, I remember now. This is the hedge, and I know you, but I don't know you. You are Sam and Rhea, yes.
Yeah, I think that's... I know both your names too. That's why I'm thinking that we've been here before. Maybe not here specifically, but I feel like we've probably been in this situation before, and that's why that oath that we're all feeling. I think that's why we've had it before. But why are we still here? Or maybe obviously, like we've run into whoever the master is. I don't know who he is, but we're supposed to know who he is based on like the hobgoblin. I mean, there's a lot going on and not a lot of answers that I can give you, but because I'm just as clueless.
Yeah, as you all presumably have memories almost try to spark from the subject, as you try and think back upon the master, whoever that is, and your situations, you almost get a lingering headache that begins to come on, and the harder you try and remember, the worse it gets. Every now and again, you seem on the brink of remembering what it was that happened, what it was that you are supposed to do. But then a spike of pain comes back and it all fades back into murky, inky darkness in your mind.
That memory, it stabs like a blade in the night. I cannot grasp it without cutting myself.
Well, I think maybe we've just figured out why we can't remember why we know each other. But so I guess it's a good thing we're not going back to the master.
Can Rumi do an occult roll to try and understand what's happening regarding their memories?
Yeah. Go ahead and give me a in this case, wits occult, and go ahead and add your weird to this.
So when I roll my weird, and this is not, is this a divination at all?
I would allow that, yeah.
Okay, then I get my my occult divination specialization.
Mhm.
Oh no, I get my sorry, I don't
the-
have an occult divination spell. Yeah, it's the other part of my
Yeah,
my kith. So if I get 3 successes, that's a
exceptional.
brilliant
Yes.
success instead of.
And you should be able to, select your word there as well. There you go.
So
Nice. Close, but you try and discern what is exactly going on. Try and seem to go ahead and describe how you do it in your particular way, the way you try and divine what's going on with yourself.
Yeah, so Rumi had been subjected to so many visions of things that could be and things that had been and things that were to be. And they're all floating around somewhere inside of his skull in a kind of MC Escher non-Euclidean geometry that makes it incredibly difficult for him to grasp and decipher any one thing. But as he concentrates, he could normally try and piece things together. And his skin kind of darkens more and more, and you see what looks almost like a series of supernovas going off in the constellation that is his hair, as he tries to summon up and understand what is happening to them.
Yeah, as you kind of gaze off into yourself, within your own mind even, you get the imagery, the sensation itself of weird. The concept that something has bound you, not an oath, but perhaps a contract. Though whatever this is no common contract. This is something far more. This is very Arcadian. This is something of a keeper, a true fae. Whatever they have done, they have bound your memories, locked them up tight. And for whatever reason, even trying to recall how they did this or why they did this inspires pain at the mere thought of it.
Our memories, they have been bound. They are trapped inside the steel girders of a contract, but not just any. There's a touch of true fae about it, of the masters. One of them did this to us, though I cannot say.
I'm not sure if I want to figure that out, I can barely remember most anything. So I don't want to go back.
You guys don't want to go back?
I mean, there's not if I'm gonna lose my memory,
But
I would die before going back again.
I mean, and also think about it. We were somehow we were able to snap out of it, but what if we hadn't? We were going to some sort of market. Like, that means we were going to be sold off.
yeah, I guess you're right. She just kind of looks down towards the ground and rubs her hands together.
How did your masters use you? Rumi asks, looking between the two of them.
Rhea's gonna look over at Sam.
Entertainment. Nothing more than a display.
Wait, you were just like there? Or
Kind of.
did you do stuff?
She seems to be getting a little bit nervous.
And to make things clear as well, could you go ahead and just give a description, each of you, of your general, like, apparent age, right? Just to make things very clear. 'Cause
14.
I think, yeah,
17.
yeah, both of you look fairly young, whereas Rumi, I think you were a bit older, yes?
So in this form, like age is like he's kind of almost ageless.
Yeah.
When he has his mask, he'll look like, someone late 30s, early 40s. Though his actual age is very different.
Yeah, of course. I would say for sure, though, Rumi and all three of you really can kind of gauge this to that at least the girls are fairly young. In particular, Sam.
There is no need to speak of it, but consider that going back, worse things could await you. These true Fae, I have seen their true nature too many times. They grow tired of us eventually, and then we are discarded or broken or tortured, like little playthings for their sick games.
Is that what happened to you?
Worse.
What's worse than that?
I was made to devour the very souls, the very essence of men, women, goblins, hobgoblins, children, even fae, so that my master could get glimpses of something in my flame.
What? I probably helped provide some of those souls, so whatever.
It does not matter now. All that matters, we need to get out of here from this place.
Ria's gonna she's gonna see that Sam is in a, because not really, I guess, antisocial, kind of walling herself up. Ria's gonna kind of place a hand on her shoulder and like, hey, we gotta stick together, all right? We're gonna figure something out. We're gonna get out of here, and I think I've done it before. But, we can do it. We can do it, right? Just get a little happiness going or something. Think of something happy.
Sam just kind of nods. Okay. I don't think I know the way out. Do you two?
I don't have a clue. Rumi, do you have any idea?
Rumi just shakes his head.
Well, this'll be an adventure.
Seemingly in response to those words, you hear a faint rustling in the distance. Something within the brush. What do you all do? It's a little ways away, but it is definitely heading this direction. Whatever it is not quiet, but it is certainly by no means loud.
What kind of a pace? Or
Very calm. Whatever it is not trying to remain unseen, and is certainly not trying to be loud or intimidating either.
Rhea is going to try and see if she can catch a glimpse of whatever it is, but without like being too obvious about her position or anything. Is that possible?
Yeah, Rumi, Sam, what are you doing in the meanwhile? You can hear this, whatever it is, approaching.
Sam is just kind of sitting up against the large tree, trying to hide and watching the other two for what they're doing.
And Rumi?
Rumi, when he hears something coming, reaches his hand into the dirt, grasping it, and as he pulls it up, let's see if this succeeds. Okay, as he pulls it up, 1 second, I'm gonna pull up the weapons chart. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're good. God, I love that one. I love contracts. I love Changeling. It's so good. But yes.
Do you know what page in the book the weapons are?
This is, let me see. Normal traits for a weapon of its kind. What are you trying to make?
Well, I'm not sure if different weapons have like different like
Yeah,
stat
yeah.
blocks.
So let me see. It is also normal traits of its kind, right? But then you can add any of the following per success, essentially. So you could add +1 weapon modifier, or decrease the initiative penalty, for example. Let me scroll down to equipment really quick.
Sorry, apologies. I should have
It's all
prepped
good.
this
It's all good.
beforehand.
So what do you want to make? Like a sword, or something light and fast, or something a bit more heavy and impactful?
Maybe something like a glaive.
Yeah, you could make something like that. I would essentially probably treat that as a spear, but with that I would, well, actually, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with the fire axe stats for that. So it's gonna be 3 damage, with a -4 initiative, essentially. It requires 3 strength to use properly if you go with that. It has 9 again, and it requires 2 hands. This is also fairly large, of course.
What did you say the damage was?
3. Now you have 2 successes, so you could increase that to 5 if you wanted to.
Can I increase it to 4 and decrease the initiative thing to 3?
Yep. Yep. So you now have. Go ahead and describe what the glaive looks like that you forge.
So Rumi reaches into the ground, grasping at the dirt, and as he does so, he pulls it up, and a long, dark steel pole comes out of the ground, and at the end of it, you see a long blade that looks to be forged of the earth itself. And he takes the glaive in his hands and positions himself ready for whatever comes.
Yeah, as all of you kind of get in your individual positions, you see a small figure, almost as small as Sam, though a fair bit stockier, emerge. The figure is, oddly enough, nothing threatening by any means. It is a quite soft-looking goat man. Let me just move this over. There we are. Hello. What? He sees you standing there with the glaive. What is this? Why are you? He kind of backs up. He has a small staff with a jar that seems to be full of fireflies, it looks like. That is actually casting a fair bit of light through the hedge. And as he kind of approaches, The atmosphere shifts again, quite heavily around him actually, and it begins to almost brighten the area around you as well. Though, Rumi, the area around you is almost aggressive still. Bits of the earth kind of sticking up jagged rocks here and there. The tree near you very sharp looking compared to before. But around this small goat man, everything seems peaceful, quiet almost. Oh, who are you? Young fellows. And he kind of stands on the very tips of his hooves to kind of gaze over the log a bit and see Rhea, although he doesn't seem to have spotted Sam yet. Hello.
Hi. We're lost. You know.
Oh, well, that's not good at all, is it? Lost in the hedge. Never good, never good. So, well, where are you headed?
Okay, well, the direction of Arcadia?
Yes, I know. No,
We
Arcadia well,
are
yes.
we are looking for the opposite direction.
You're looking... changelings, yes. Looking to go home, no doubt. Are you... He kind of looks you both over, kind of tilting his head a bit. Fresh escapees? Yes. Mm-hmm. I
So
imagine.
you run across people like us a lot?
Oh, yes. Very busy area, especially near the trod, near the market. Yes, very busy.
The market. Is that a place that we should avoid? I'm guessing that's...
No. It's well, quite pleasant, really. Yes.
Well, we were just with like a hobgoblin, and he was saying that like the master was needing to take us to, or like have him take us to the market. And we were kind of suspecting that we were like being sold into slavery, which is really bad.
Oh, well, yes. Likely to Vodka. Yes. Vodka does. Her deals are the best around, really, but quite a vicious lass she is. Yes.
What is a Volca?
Vodka. Yes. The resident slaver. Well, I say resident. Really, she's the best one in the area. Likely to be sold there, or perhaps, I suppose, to one of the lesser folk, but she runs the Sunny Bazaar, after all, by all means.
And who are you?
Oh, well, young one, I am, you can call me Maiga. Old man Maiga. I am, but a humble hobgoblin, just out looking for any fresh fruit to gather, yes.
You find any fresh fruit?
Yes, I have indeed. He kind of pulls a satchel up from his side and shows you a small fruit. It almost looks akin to a beating heart, but a more traditional drawn heart. Not necessarily anatomically correct, to say the least. Yes. Quite good. Good stuff. He shoves it back in the little satchel. Only one so far, though. Perhaps I'll find more.
Well, good luck to you on that, and I don't know, maybe we can work out something. We help you find fruit, you help us find our way out.
A small smile creeps across his goat-like maw. Yes, that might do well, yes. I could certainly use some help finding some more goblin fruit. And it does seem like you, too, could use a guide. Hedge is not kind to unwary travelers such as yourselves. New folk tend to, well, he kind of points off, kind of to the left of you all as you presumably look a bit, and you see what looks like the vague remains of something human-shaped. You can find poor, sorrowful folk like that scattered here and there. But if you're lucky and you know a kind old goat like myself, you can usually find a decent way out.
And you're completely willing to help people like us?
Yes. I wouldn't mind it. I have nothing better to do. I've not found much fruit, and to be honest, well, he kind of looks around. It's a bit lonely out here, to be honest. I've encountered other travelers, such as yourself, now and again, but I do quite enjoy the company. So, how about that? Yes, your company on the way back to the market, perhaps? That would be probably the safest place to go.
Are you serious? Well, I don't know. Like, does it seem like a safe place to go if we were gonna be sold off there? Like, what if they know that we're supposed to be sold?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I forget you're newcomers. Well, returnees, maybe? I suppose so. Yes. Well, the market, you see, there is an oath on the way in. You won't be harmed by anyone there. Nor will you harm anyone there.
Ria's gonna look to Rumi and Sam. Well, the vicinity of where Sam might be.
Does Rumi use investigation his body language specialty to try and get a read on like this? Does he seem to be as harmless as he's portraying himself?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and give it a roll. And this would be wits investigation in this case for body language.
And with the specialty, it gives it +2?
Yep,
or
+1, unless there is a merit you can get eventually that increases it to +2.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks. I was just double checking.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be lying. He seems to be telling you the truth. He seems like he certainly wants some company. And judging from the sound of it, it definitely is a goblin deal, but certainly not one that is going to accrue any debt in this case. He's merely looking for company in exchange for helping you.
If he wants company and can help guide us, his company would be most welcome to me.
Well, that's quite kind of you. What say you, young lady?
Hey, I'm open for any help, and I trust his judgment.
Yes. Very good. Well, as I said, I'll be happy for the company. It can be quite lonely, and he kind of looks over Rumi. And one such as yourself would certainly be good to have if the wolves come.
There are wolves in these.
Yes. Terribly dangerous, the briar wolves. Nothing you want to encounter anytime, even with guards. I would go to the courts, but they are not so kind nowadays as they used to be, especially summer. But that is something we can talk about on the way, yes? Yes. Well then, if you... off to the market, yes? If you wish to follow. Come on.
All right.
Of course.
Sam, you are still tucked away a bit. What do you do? He doesn't seem to have noticed you at all.
During all this time, listening to their conversation and what this person is saying, and the fact that it wants to bring us back to market, Sam is going to use spinning wheel
Ooh.
and is going to try to destine and hopefully influence their destiny of getting out of this place.
Alrighty. Was that under mirror or jewels?
Under a crown.
Crown. Oh my. I need to get more familiar with them, it seems. Let me scroll to it. Sorry. Yes. Alright, so yeah, and you would have enough time while they're having that conversation, essentially. It is the 3 glamour and 1 willpower, if you want to remove that real quick. And then just roll me the intelligence, occult, and weird. And do minus resolve as well.
Okay, so intelligence, occult, and weird.
Or actually, let me see. Yeah, and I would say this is at least 10 minutes or so. Let me see. So in this case, it would be following him back to the market, yes. Made by the target or other characters gain bonus dice equal to successes rolled to invoke the contract. Well, rolls obstructing it gain a minus. Okay, cool. Alrighty.
And as tourist, it says I get +3 and inspired to destined positive circumstances.
Very nice.
What does inspired mean?
Yeah, so so that will be, yes, your intelligence plus occult plus weird +3 modifier, minus resolve. The subject word resolve, which I would say in this case would be Myga, which resolve would be 2 in such case.
Would I just subtract 2 from
Yep,
my
so essentially you could just do +1 modifier, and that would even out.
Okay.
Unless you're spending willpower, which I don't think you need to, honestly. Though if you wish to. Ooh. Alright, well. Let me see, I believe that is per success, or... Standard, each roll takes 10 minutes. Target number equals subjects, weird or resolve. Whichever is higher. If it is weird, okay. So I'm going to... Now, you can reveal yourself and continue doing this, but it's going to take about 10 minutes for each roll. And you have to reach, essentially, Maiga's weird, which in this case is going to be 4.
Okay. Do you know why I got -3 for occult?
Do you have any dots in occult?
Nope.
Yeah, so any academic stuff, or I mean not academic, but mental ones, essentially, if you have no dots in them, you get a -3 to them.
I see.
Yes, if you wish to rework that, you can later. I'm perfectly fine with that. You're all, of course, new to Changeling, so after first session, everything will be locked. But if at this point, after the session is over, we can kind of readjust. It's perfectly fitting as you will potentially be leaving the hedge, which would represent the kind of final cementing of your forms and such. So if you wish to kind of readjust that, you will be able to at the end of the session.
Okay. Cool.
So for now, yeah, that's 1 success and you need 4. So go ahead and ahead of time give me 3 more rolls. Or, well, however many it takes, essentially. So do another one real quick. And just the same thing with 1 modifier. Alrighty, and then 1 more. And 1 more. There you go. Alright, so it's going to take you about 40 minutes essentially to kind of get this up and running, to activate this, which will be a little bit. You are able to kind of start working on it. Go ahead and describe what that's like for your character as you kind of start attempting to weave fate.
So, as she's listening to this conversation and hearing it progress, she begins to dig into some of the mud on the ground near the tree, drawing on it and playing in a small puddle of water by tapping it lightly, channeling some energy to try to divine and picture the three of them getting out of here.
Nice, yeah. You feel the magics, the weird bend to your will and begin working the contract. It will take a bit of time as you guys begin to move, presumably, for you to finish working the contract. They will be able to notice once you're kind of doing this openly, unless you try and conceal it. And do you reveal yourself, presumably? As the other two are presumably getting ready to head out following Micah?
Yeah, as the conversation is winding down, she's gonna cautiously step out from behind the tree and just look at this hobgoblin.
Oh, well. I didn't know there were three of you. Oh, well, I suppose my offer extends to you as well, yes? If you wish to come.
She just nods.
Very good. He kind of eyes you and kind of notes the flow of the weird around you and kind of just nods and then nods again. Very well. If you all wish to follow, Micah will lead.
Lead the way, Micah.
Alrighty.
And Rumi will follow us, of course, as well. Keeping his spear glaive thing, though.
Nice.
I don't see a duration on the the instructions.
Yeah, let me check. I think they have a general duration. Sorry for the black screen. Just give me a second.
You're fine.
Action instant. Generally speaking, if it doesn't list one, it's till the end of the scene. So it would break down, because I'm not seeing anything that says there's a particularly long thing.
Okay. Darn it.
Although I think you do get a more fitting weapon if you were to use fire, since that's kind of your elemental. Or wait, you're not an elemental, never mind.
I am.
Oh, are you? Yeah, you are. I keep thinking you're wizened or something, but I don't know why.
Oh, well, I'm kind of like a weird blend between the two. And
Yeah, you have a lot of elements to you, which I quite like. It's very fitting.
But I am absolutely like stacked out for fire stuff. But I don't see any fire here.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, so you guys kind of continue along your way, and eventually you find yourself in a rather, ignore anything you see, there we go, rather beautiful glade. The thorns are still all around, but nonetheless a bit less threatening. They almost look softer with Micah around, as the light begins to kind of pour down, as if the trees have opened up more, and the whole area around you within the hedge seems to radically change after just maybe half an hour. And it's not too hard getting your weird setup, Sam, getting your contract going, and you feel everything kind of shift to accommodate. You guys, again, feel much more at ease with Micah around. Almost off-puttingly so, but he leads you along. So, how, might I ask, if this is okay, did you escape?
Well, Rumi did a cool thing. Didn't you, Rumi?
Oh. You mentioned a hobgoblin, yes?
Yes, it resembled a giant buzzard.
Hmm. Buzzard, you say? Yes? That is... sounds familiar, but I can't say I know this individual.
It called us puppets, but the whatever it was doing to us broke down, and I was able to distract it with a mirage.
Yes, you certainly don't look like any mannequin, though. Not any that I've seen myself.
As we're kind of walking, Rumi is going to keep an eye out for any of the like fruit things that he's holding, like in the trees.
Yeah, you notice that the area is abundant with vegetation, though fruit in particular don't stick out immediately to you. Go ahead and give me a survival roll, a wit survival roll in this case. Anyone who wants to do this and keep an eye out for them can.
All right, let me do my first roll. With survival.
Wit survival. Yep.
Sam
Nope.
wasn't really paying attention for that part of the conversation, so
Yeah, I imagine this is probably while you're still kind of working your contract a bit, so that's fitting.
cool.
Oh my. And
I'm actually kind of glad that happened because I would like for that to be a dramatic failure.
ah, nice. Yeah. So, very perfect. Good first session thing. So you guys are kind of walking along, and Maria, you don't manage to spot anything, but Rumi, you do see something up and off to the side a bit from Maiga as he continues kind of through the archway and the roots that seem to make up this area. Roots that reach up farther again than you can see, even though the light of presumably the sun, maybe, crashes down towards you. And you kind of stumble off the seeming path almost that he seems to be walking down to grab at the fruit. As you do, you pluck it from the vine. It looks quite similar to the one he had before, although it is a little bit misshapen. And that's when you get the strangest sensation. You see, as you look back down in your hand, the fruit seems to have withered rather swiftly. The entire thing seems to be pumping out some sort of spores. It is...
Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it.
Yes. Yes. As you drop it, the thing withers the rest of the way, and a final puff releases out from it just as it hits the ground. And you cough once and then twice as you feel the spores rush into your, well, whatever sort of lungs you might have. You feel dizzy, off. The entire area around you begins to shift and change almost as you almost stumble. Rhea and Sam, could you both give me a wits composure roll?
Wait, where's composure?
It's an attribute.
Yep. So this is, I mentioned before, this is the type of roll where you can't actually use willpower since it's a double attribute roll.
Okay.
This is just the kind of the general perception roll, essentially. Alright. right, Sam is doing pretty good.
Sam, come save me!
Rhea hasn't quite noticed. She's still looking for the fruit to no avail. But Sam, as you are following Micah and Rhea, you notice something. Rumi isn't next to / behind you as he was before. He seems to have gone off the path a little bit as you turn, and you see him begin to, and hear him begin to cough. He's further back than you would have thought by now, as oddly enough, as slow as you seem to be going, you're making quite the distance quite quickly. You notice the entire area around him seem to almost shift as these spores are kind of filling the air around him like a pallid cloud. Every now and again you see them almost pulse with a reddish tinge. And you notice the hedge and the thorns around him become more damp, fungal even. Small mushrooms seem to almost sprout up around him, very slowly at first, then more quickly as you see him nearly collapse before he catches himself. Rumi, you are not doing too hot. Sam, what do you do?
As Sam is seeing all this go down, she just kind of stares at it, stopping, calls out, "Rumi?" which will hopefully also get Rhea's attention.
Would Rhea be able to notice that, at least?
Yeah. Oddly enough, the coughing is almost stifled from this distance. Normally you'd think you would have heard it quite clearly, but you only just pick up on it as you turn and realize that he's further away than you would have expected. Again, Rumi, you are not doing too well. As you kind of are brought down to one knee, I'm going to give you the poisoned tilt. Now this is only moderate, but basically, well poisoned, you're going to be taking 1 bashing per turn. As you feel your, lungs begin to burn hotter and hotter, and then suddenly get almost icy cold again, and then suddenly warmth, and then cold, as they almost forcefully contract here and there, making it much harder to breathe. By this point, you all notice he is in clear distress, and Micah has turned now, hearing him and noticing both of you having stopped. Oh no! Oh, this is not good. He begins to rush over. What do both of you do?
What's not good? What's going on?
You notice him again kind of stop next to Rumi, taking note of all the mushrooms around and setting his small staff, walking stick thing, with the fireflies down, illuminating the area around Rumi much more now, as it has grown a bit dim. This is very bad. He must have grabbed one that he thought was a goblin fruit, but it's actually a very, very dangerous plant. Yes.
Okay, well, what can we do to, help him?
Yes. Although I regret doing this, the only thing that would help is perhaps another goblin fruit. We need one that is quite good at mending such poisons. Help me search the area. He does not have long, or he will be in a much worse condition.
Oh, great. Okay, so, what do we need to be looking for, and, so that we don't do the same thing he...
Yes. It is like not like a fruit, not like you would expect. More like grass, tall, long, grayish. Just look quickly now. And he kind of begins rummaging around through the brush in the area, the thorns occasionally digging a bit at him. Rumi, you are able to act, but the coughing is not making things easy. By this point, I would say you've taken 2 bashing.
Rue's going to start looking again for the fruit based on Maga's description.
Yeah. Sam, what do you do?
Sam's going to help as well.
Rumi is also going to, having heard that while coughing, try to look around.
Yeah. All right. All of you can go ahead. Rumi, you're taking the bashing already, but you do not have any further minuses. Although it is hard going, you are able to see and move fairly well enough.
What kind of roll is it again?
So this will be another wit survival.
Is this some? So I have the acute senses merit.
Ah, yeah. I would. Let me double check that real quick.
Add the character's word rating to dice to any perception-based rolls. This bonus supersedes the one normally granted by maximum clarity.
Yeah. I would absolutely allow that. This is quite fitting.
Probably should have done it the first time, but I'm not super upset about the failure. This is...
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Alrighty, so Rhea hasn't managed to notice anything. And this is another situation where, in this case, you guys can use willpower. If you want to... any situation where you feel like it is suitably important, or your character would put a great deal of effort in, willpower can give you a +3 bonus. I will, in this case, of course, let you do that reactively if you'd like. Retroactively, I mean to say.
Well, how do you do it retroactively?
So if you click simple roll up there, and then just click the roll button and type in 3 to the modifier. And then
And to where it says dice pool?
Yep. So up in the top right corner, you'll be able to. Oh, shame.
Rhea is useless.
Poor Rhea. She is not noticing much of anything today, it seems. But regardless, with a fair bit of effort, and Maiga actually is going to roll as well. He would have fairly high in that. Oh, but he does not quite spot anything either. But, luckily enough, Rumi and Sam, you almost bump into each other as you both stumble upon a bit of this grass. Rumi, at this point, I would say that's another bashing damage. At this point, you're at 3. As you finally grasp... It's almost similar to chives, this stuff. The kind of slightly round, long, grass-like leaves. But they are a chalky gray. And they, generally speaking, fit the description that Micah gave you. Both of you find a bit there. What do you do?
Rumi pulls it up and kind of like turns and like shoves it in Maiga's face and is like
yes, he kind of rushes to your side. Yes, yeah, lay down. And he grabs it out of your hand and kind of shoves it into his own mouth and begins to chew at it like cud. And after a moment, and go ahead and take another bashing, at this point you're at 4, he spits it out into his hand. It is a thick glob, almost like gum, that has just been chewed. It is very tightly formed together now. Now, be very careful and swallow this down quickly, alright? Don't chew on it anymore. Don't accidentally breathe it in when you cough. Swallow this down, and he kind of shoves it towards your mouth.
Rumi's not super happy about eating, this, but like he follows instructions.
Yeah. You swallow the lump down. It is almost hard, but it seems like a putty. Almost it sticks and holds along your throat. And finally, as it kind of grasps there for a moment, you finally manage to get it down the rest of the way as it kind of looses itself from the side of your throat and flushes down into your stomach. You then feel a burning sensation throughout your lungs. Very, very hot. You cough out, and then cough out again, and then finally you take one lethal as you expunge a breath of flames that are a very dark gray color. All of you, of course, gathered around see this. And although Rumi is looking in a very rough condition, you feel the breathing stop. The burning in your, or the coughing stop. The burning in your lungs, however, is still quite sore, but it is not as trying and immediate as it was.
That one lethal that stacks on top of one of the burning, or is it?
So it'll be in addition, yeah. So you'll mark down one lethal, and then you'll still have the 4 bashing.
Okay, gotcha. So I am at -1 for everything right now.
Yes. Wounded. Lovely. Yeah. All of you see he is in pretty rough condition, right? He is in a situation where most people would tell him to go to the hospital and get checked out, make sure he's all right.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe clarity for me? And do I regain clarity at any point if I use something that kind of spends it?
Let me see. So, we have the clarity handout. That'll have a lot of your general information in there. But speaking to that, in this case, let me see, do you have something in particular that spends clarity?
So I have a Kith blessing as a playmate that allows me to heal people of bashing or lethal damage, but I take clarity damage for how much I heal.
Oh, interesting. Let me pop over to that so that I have the whole thing in front of me. But yeah, that is certainly something you could use, and you can recover clarity later on. Yes. Let me just pop that up. And you said it was playmate, yes? Lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
I will point out taking damage to your clarity gives a beat.
It does. And it is something to be very noted. It is quite big, really. So you can spend a glamour, to heal any number of bashing or lethal damage points as an instant action. Take the same amount of mild clarity damage as bashing damage healed, or the same amount of severe clarity damage as lethal damage healed. Yeah, so you can absolutely do that if you want to. It would be quite trying, but suffice to say it does work if you wish to use it.
Yeah, after you throw up this gray rainbow, or this gray flame,
Was gonna say, isn't that an oxymoron?
begin kind of regaining your breath, but you still look very weak and injured. Sam is gonna kneel down next to you, placing her hand on your shoulder, and the glow from her skin begins to dim as water feels like it is pouring over you. Feels cold and is a bit of a shock to your system at first. But as you get used to the feeling, it begins to feel soothing and comforting, and you feel yourself regain a little bit of strength. and I'm just gonna say I'm gonna heal 2.
Okay, yeah. So go
Two
ahead
bashing.
and in your clarity
2 bashing.
track, let me. So it would, yeah, it would be boop boop. So I marked it there. You can see that with your clarity, yes.
Yes.
So those are, if it's one line, it's bashing. Second one would be lethal.
Okay. Got it.
Yep. So you feel, of course, your mind a bit racked by this. Your kind of bearing on everything around you shift fairly painfully. Your literal grasp on the, well, not literal, but your grasp of the surroundings, your vision begins to go a bit odd. But you kind of hold together. So that takes you, so 3. Okay. So if you were to get dramatic failure, you would start dealing with hallucinations. 2 points below clarity 5, yes. Alrighty. Alright, and if you were to take any more, you would fall unconscious, of course, yes. So at the moment, you will be in a pretty precarious situation if you were to fail a perception roll with a dramatic failure, of course, which is your choice. So do keep that in mind. It is an option, of course, as always.
Got it.
But Rumi, you feel, of course, as she described, a sense of relief. Although there is still pain there, it is better.
Yeah, Rumi was collapsed on all fours, and while heaving up the gray flame, and as he does so, his entire body seems to dim a little bit. The constellation flowing out of his head grows dimmer and shrinks. The vibrant colors swirling within his skin grow darker and just less dramatic. But after she touches him and washes him, a bit of the color returns, and he looks up at her and he says, "Thank you. Do not careful touching the fruit."
Yeah, let's not go touching any more fruit unless Micah says it's okay. All right?
Yes, it is quite dangerous, really, for those who are uninitiated in such things. Perhaps one day I'll teach you more of the ways to find good goblin fruit and bad. But for now, I think it's best you be careful and just follow along. My, that could have been very bad indeed.
Rumi nods and kind of rises to his feet and motions for them to get moving again.
Yes. Come along.
Sam rises to her feet and kind of stumbles for a second as she stands up completely. I feel this.
Good.
You cut off at the end there.
I feel dizzy. Could somebody help?
Rumi drops to a knee and kind of puts his arms in the universally understood position of piggyback ride.
She kind of sighs, but stumbles towards you and accepts your help.
It is presumably fairly startling, the stark difference between the warmth of Rumi and the cool, watery feel of Sam. Sam, presumably the warmth from his head, quite close to your own. You almost see a bit of steam come up.
Hey, great job, Sam.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You have nothing to be sorry for. I am the one who is sorry. I should not have. I should have been more careful.
Yes, yes, very
Could have
careful.
done more, but my head just started hurting.
Hey, you did the best you could, and that's great.
Yeah, Micah picks up his little staff and kind of clambers a bit closer. Yes, yes, you should be careful. It is quite dangerous, of course, using clarity in such ways. Your mind isn't that stable yet after your return. Yes. Well, we should move. We should move on. It is dangerous to linger for long. Things could find us.
Yeah, okay, so how far are we from where we're going?
Yes. He kind of looks up and then out and then kind of clambers up onto a nearby rock. Yes, perhaps an hour? 3, perhaps? We will see.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
Oh boy. All right, let's get going. Rumi, you feeling good?
I'm fine. I'll be able to handle this.
So you all continue moving along. The hedge remains fairly bright following along with Maiga, and overall it's a fairly refreshing trip. Alright, let me move you real quick. Finally, as you guys continue to travel, you notice that suddenly the bright atmosphere is kind of beginning to die back a little bit. And Maiga becomes visibly more cautious as you move on. We must be careful. I feel like something is coming. It's dark, this part of the hedge. Yes, yes. Very dark. And I will shift you guys over. Adjust you. Boop. And although the area is generally a bit brighter, it is still, as Maiga said, dark compared to the way it was before. Light breaks through here and there, and the path ahead does not seem all that precarious, but it's as if the areas, the hedge, the brambles itself, are closing in on you a bit more, far more than before, really. You all hear something finally off in the distance. What sounds like braying laughter, although not like that you heard before, somewhat similar. Almost like a dog yipping in a way. Mike seems very concerned. Quickly, off to the side. Take cover. As he kind of ushers you all into the shade of a rather large briar tree.
What's going on?
Vorka slavers, they tend to be quite, well, unforgiving. Although they may not anger me, they would certainly be happy to take some, well, newcomers like yourselves. Yes. As he's explaining the situation, you see several figures kind of pop into view. One kind of leading the way. They all look much akin to hyenas. Large, fearsome, and all quite happily yipping along the way. You hear them discussing something, but you can't really make anything out. what do you all do? At the very least, I would like each of you to give me a dexterity stealth roll.
Should I, even though I'm on Rumi's shoulders, or kind of in a...
Yeah, I'd presume he'd kind of set you down a little bit here, because it's a bit hard to hide otherwise. My guess seems to be quite concerned with the 3 fellows coming down the way.
Dope.
And Micah will roll as well. Ooh, fairly well. Compared to nothing. And you all do your best to kind of tuck away to the side there, but you see kind of the figure at the head peek around your way. I smell something. Fresh changelings, brothers. Look here, he kind of lurches out, leaping almost, as if pointing with a large club he has. Who are you? He then kind of turns. Micah, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be out this way. Micah seems quite concerned. Oh, yes. Well, we bit lost, you see. Yeah, lost, you say. What are these?
We are servants. We are servants of the Fae of Shadows and Flames, and we are here to purchase in the market at our master's command. And how dare you stop us? Rumi says.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a manipulation subterfuge roll. Oh, wrong thing, sorry. I have a thing for that one.
God damn it. I'm gonna spend a point of willpower to do to give that the +3 bonus.
All right. Okay. And do remember, after the first session, it will be something you need to do ahead of time. It's generally not a reactive roll, but in this case, of course, we're all getting used to everything, so it is perfectly fine. Ooh,
Wah,
right.
wah, wah.
Having a bad time. You lie. Brothers, come over here. We have a newcomer. Yes. You see the other two kind of yip and yammer as they kind of approach, backing either side, so that it's not easy for any of you to get past. Micah kind of steps forward a bit worried, kind of looking between you and the slavers.
Micah, do you have any fire?
Yes, I do.
Light it now.
He holds, oddly enough, the small jar at the end of his staff to you, and kind of pulls back the little lid a bit. You see a small firefly kind of buzz your way, except as it gets closer you realize that it is not so much a firefly by the traditional sense, but an actual little mote of flame.
As he does that, Rumi reaches out with one hand and kind of grasps it. And the second he does, his arm, like the hand that grasps it, bursts into like a bright blue flame that slowly crawls up his arm while simultaneously expanding into a sword of sheer flame that blends into himself. what this is I'm simultaneously gonna roll for the elemental weapon again. So one sec, let me pull that up.
Nice. Just making sure that's centered. Cool. Oh my.
Okay.
It's a rough first session, isn't it?
This is a really
How many willpower do you have left?
I'm gonna go ahead and spend another willpower.
Yeah,
I know normally that I'd have to do that beforehand.
It's all good. It's all good. It's session 1. I don't mind. Let's hope you can get something tasty here. Oh my gosh.
What is with this?
Very brutal rolls for first session. As you kind of grasp the flame, your abilities, your word, seem very dubious. You have not quite honed in on the way to control them. Before, it feels as if it was easy. As if moving your hand, right? But right now, something about having just escaped, perhaps, something about the hedge here, perhaps the fear of the situation even, it doesn't take hold the way you intend, and it sputters out. Ha ha ha.
So
Yeah.
so it does, but it doesn't quite sputter out. Like I fail at summoning it, but I also have the elemental warrior. Merit, I have 3 points of it. So specifically what's going on here is I could still use it to create a defensive flurry, which the flame still leaps around me. I add half of my word rounded down in dice to my dodge pool, and I double my defense.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
And I could spend glamour to use the flame to do a ranged attack.
Alrighty, so let me see.
It would be a brawl because I don't have a weapon this round, but you know.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can make melee attacks from 10 yards. I would say, yeah, that definitely. I would say it words it as melee, but I would basically, that would.
Sorry, brawl attack is what I yeah.
Yeah. So is that what you're going to do? Are you going to attack?
No, I'm just going to, like, you see, flames start swirling around him and form a shield about him, and he's just preparing in case they.
Yeah, they definitely noticed your attempt at forming that blade, but they seem a bit more confident compared to the way they were about to feel. Right, you could see them looking a bit concerned, but then they see it sputter out a bit. Although you are wreathed in flame compared. Oh, and actually, you are very right, Sam. So roll one more die, actually, Rumi. And let me double check
More
something.
die or that roll?
Because your thing would be giving it a bonus. And I think it had an extra thing for Ferris. Which I don't know if it applies to him. Yeah, so
What
it's
would I
just
roll?
when enacting it. Sorry, Sam? What?
What would I roll?
I was asking, I just need Rumi actually to, because you're talking about your one you did earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would actually, he would be getting a bonus to that, a 1 die bonus, which that's my bad. We should have been applying that to a lot of things. I'm very sorry about that. But regardless, so yeah, actually although at first it seemed, yeah, I know, right? That one more die was exactly what you needed, it turns out. You see the blade begin to, kind of essentially sputter out, and they look quite cocky for it before kind of as if by chance the word kind of wraps around it and the blade solidifies in flame once more, bursting out a gout of flame in the process. And you see them look a fair bit more concerned than they were. They were looking a bit cocky there, but now they are worried. They kind of look between themselves. We will get you. You can't get Rollick. Rollick will get you. Take you to Volca. What do you all do? They seem cautious, but they seem like they're getting ready to approach. The two to either side of, apparently, Rollick, have staves, it looks like, with essentially large hinged spikes around the ends of it. Basically, it looks like it would clasp around your waist or some such, or perhaps even your neck, and grasp you with rather painful looking spikes. Essentially a man catcher, if you know what those are. What do you all do? They are kind of getting, basically encircling you.
We
Yeah.
we can make it to the market on our own. It's fine. You can go on ahead. Thanks for your concern.
You're saying this to them, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah, they... Rollick in particular looks a bit confused. The other two seem to not necessarily understand what you're trying to do, but seem to be less concerned with it. What do you mean? We'll take you to Volca.
Oh, no. We already have an appointment. And that's exactly what we're going to do. You don't have to escort us. Like, the more people, the more Volca is gonna be like evoke and a lot of angry, you know what I'm...
He kind of squints his eyes and looks a bit confused. Alright, you go ahead and give me a manipulation subterfuge as well.
Can I try to aid this in, I have a specific way I want to do it.
Yeah, go ahead and describe.
Oh no, where's subterfuge?
it's one of the last ones.
Oh, there it is.
So as she does that, Rumi takes his flaming sword and actually licks the fire from it, swallowing a piece of it, and starts to walk forward. And as he does so, it activates Primal Glory without me having to spend any glamour, because that's its loophole. And what that does is I gain immunity to damage from mundane instances of that, round down for magical sources. I get an armor rating of 1/1 of the of fire in this case, and it hurts anyone who gets too close to me. Since I'm an elemental, it deals damage to anyone within my word meters and yards. So anyone within any enemy within 2 meters or yards of me starts taking fire damage.
Yep.
So as she says that, Rumi starts kind of walking forward, having licked the blade, and you just see flames leaping out and starting to singe the ground in front of him.
Yeah. As you do so, they look quite a bit more visibly concerned, and Rollick actually kind of backs off a bit from you. The other two kind of spreading out to either side more. And you would all notice that the whole area, this part of the hedge essentially seems warmer as he does this. You notice some of the, and not even areas where his flame is touching, seem to be charred. The thorns look as if they have embers kind of winnowing within them. The tree looks like it has been burnt at some point. The whole atmosphere is that of a charred wasteland almost, compared to before, and yet the thorns still look like they would quite easily dig into you. As he backs up. Okay, fine. You go see Voka. Let me roll really quick for him. Oh my. Regardless. Fine. We go. You see Voka. You get best deals from Voka. Best slaver. Yes.
That's what we hear.
You see him kind of back away more before he and his troop skitter and pounce off into the distance.
Well, that was close.
Thank
Finally,
you, Rumi.
yeah, the area quiets back down.
As it does so, the flames around Rumi all kind of like die down and return to its normal state until he's just holding the little firefly in his hand. At which point he kind of walks over and places it in.
I really don't want to go to the market. Like, everything's pointing towards the slaver. It's not, I'm not getting some good vibes.
I do apologize. It is, well, normally not such a problem. You see, Avoka's slavers go out about this time. I was hoping to avoid them. But now that he kind of looks to Rumi and you, go ahead and give me a wits empathy roll, anybody. Anybody that wants to, of course. Yeah. Alright, so Rhea, you would notice. Rumi, Sam, are you going to?
I thought it was just one of us.
I did. It didn't go well.
Alright.
-1 to empathy.
I'll do one.
Okay.
It's because he doesn't have any empathy trained.
Yeah, so if you don't have training in something, if you don't have at least 1 dot, you get a minus. If it's in a mental thing, you get -3.
Rumi has a very warped sense of like interpersonal connection with people.
Yeah, Rhea, you notice a little bit, but Sam, you in particular quite notice that he looks a bit afraid of Rumi, really, of the fire that he conjures. Yeah, well, I am sorry for the trouble, but we are close. They must have only just left. We should be able to get there soon.
Are we gonna have issues with this slaver? Cause like,
No. Of course not.
can you guarantee that?
Well, I mean, that is largely up to you once you enter the market, but Voka, if you take the oath, well, you're in the market. Voka can't do, well, anything outright to you.
Yeah, well,
You
we're
see.
in the market, but what, like, we want to leave, you know?
Yes. In the mortal world, you'll be fine.
Wait,
first, of course-
the mortal world? Is there a way to the mortal world through the market?
Oh, yes. I presume that's why you wanted to come with, to go home.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you see, the market is... Although most markets tend to travel, this is a peculiar area. It is... He looks a bit almost cautious to say, but then he kind of looks a bit scared. Rumi again speaks up. Well, it's closer to Arcadia than most, but nonetheless, the hedge gates do lead back to Bryven. You see, this is the Bryven market we're headed to. It is one of the most spectacular and grand of all the goblin markets, really. Quite unique.
Did you say Briven? That was
yes.
my home on Earth.
Oh, well, aren't you lucky? Close to home. Some leave the hedge and are miles and miles and miles away, but some do get lucky like you. Somehow, then again, many do find their way. Perhaps it is just the way that it calls you home. But yes, there are many gates to Braven. It is, of course, well, you see, it used to go by many other names, but then it settled, and, well, although it still travels, the gates are maintained. The Myriad make sure of that.
I think I'm from Briven as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
But are you afraid of fire?
He kind of backs a bit at that. No. It lights the way. He kind of holds his little staff up. Just, it's familiar. The flames. You see the King of Summer. He looks almost afraid to say more. If you'd like to get him to open up, you could do a presence or manipulation empathy roll. I'll let you choose which.
Rumi's not gonna roll on this one. He
Okay. Yeah, anybody else want to? It's up to you guys.
I'm gonna roll, and I'm gonna spend a willpower.
Alrighty.
And the modifiers, when I'm using willpower, I just say 1, or I say...
For that, it's +3 for a willpower. It was 1 with the other one before because of the -2. Okay, yeah. You go ahead and describe how you you speak to him, you get him to open up.
The King of Summer? Does Rumi remind you of him?
Well, yes, a bit. I've only seen him once or twice. The man is quite, well, he is fearsome. He is quite a powerful man, skin like soot and hair aflame. He drips molten bronze, you see. His eyes are like looking into a volcano. He is... they've taken to calling him many things, but many of those here in the hedge call him, well, the Molten King. He is not pleasant to deal with, at least not for hedge folk, of course. The changelings, your folk, deal with him fine, so long as they are, well, not loyalists, but others. He is a dangerous and aggressive man. He has been attempting to lead his fellows in culling the hobgoblins. He has been barred from the market because he has been so notably hostile. And as he describes to you the King of Summer, I'm going to go ahead and show you the handout for him. Daniel Howard's. As he'll go on and kind of give you most of the information you see here, essentially.
Is he not a hobgoblin? Or a fan?
He has been leading a sort of new charge since he became king of summer years ago. He despises the true fae, of course, like most summer courtiers. But he is particular. Yeah, he is particularly vicious. Small hollows have been burnt down. Entire communities of hobgoblins incinerated. Your friend here, Rumi, you are powerful in your flame, but it is nothing to the King of Cinder.
I have no ill will to you or your people as long as you are not true fae. I just want to get home.
Yes. In that regard, we should move. Yes. Back, get you home. Get me home. Really, I would quite like to rest now after all of this. If you would, kind of clod back onto the path, and beckon you all to follow if you do.
Ria's going to follow. I'm ready to get home. Let's all get home. Do our thing. I don't know. I really want to know what my bed feels like again, because I kind of forgot how that feels.
Me too. And Sam is gonna walk forward. She's still stumbling a little bit and seems a little off balance, but she's mostly holding her.
Okay, you all continue onwards. Now I'm going to swap us over. Sorry. You guys travel for not a whole lot longer before you kind of come upon slowly more and more beauteous area. The whole area around you becomes much more flooded with colorful fauna, flora, and mushrooms in particular. Finally, and of course, if you ever see, characters in the background of an image like that, pretty much ignore it. It's atmosphere, So finally you come along, and you reach an area like so, and you notice that Micah is looking much more relaxed now. We are almost there, yes. The guards should be somewhere around to lead us in. Anytime now, anytime. And almost as if on cue, you see a figure begin to emerge out from the rather foggy and moist area. You see his figure kind of approach. Who approaches Shlish? Yes, Shlish. You're looking to enter. He kind of swings a hand and his little staff towards the three of you as it kind of creaks along it. Newcomers, yes. They must take the oath, yes. And the rather imposing figure, who has almost similar to the one you created before, a glaive that seems almost entirely of wood, it seems like, who is himself essentially a large humanoid mushroom, although rather heavily and staunchly built. You see other such guards kind of in the distance now, almost. The thorns here are almost non-existent in some spots, beaten back quite far. And he kind of turns to all of you. You newcomers. Shlish welcomes you.
Thanks.
We are most grateful for Slish's hospitality, Rumi says, doing a slight bow.
Yes. Come. Shlish takes you to gate. To palisade. He kind of starts walking rather abruptly. Yes, come this way. He'll help you in. As you finally approach, you find that you come to a huge, and I mean like huge, probably 40, 50 foot tall series of almost tree-like mushrooms that form a rather tightly knit palisade, keeping pretty much anything out. And as you approach the walls, there are almost no thorns near you. Although you do spot them attempting to pop up here and there, it's far less significant than it was before. You finally come up upon a large gate that seems to have been almost chopped into one of the mushrooms, and what looks like a wooden spike gate, a grated one, that is kind of pulled up, and Schliel sort of stops in front of you all. You must take the oath. Schliel will tell you how. Speak after Schliel. I vow by my name that I shall never enact physical violence, hostile or manipulative contracts, or theft of any kind within the Braven Goblin Market. I shall pay the price for what I purchase or take honestly and to the best of my ability, so long as doing so does not break this oath. I shall not refuse a product I have paid for willingly and knowingly. I shall uphold any consensual business related pledge within for its set duration. And I will show you guys a handout here, the Braven Goblin Market, and at the bottom of which you can find the oath, which he asks you each to recite.
Ria's eyes go wide. It's like Shliosh just continues on with the oath. And she was ready to repeat after him until he kept going, and then she's just kind of stares blankly at him until he ends. And she kind of nods, smiles a little bit. It's like, yes, I vow, by my name. Oh, by...
Yeah, Micah actually kind of steps. Yeah, yes. Sorry, Schliers. The gods can be. Schliers, you have the written. Yes, written. And Schliers nods a very slow nod and kind of heads over to a small. It looks like a small room, a gatehouse essentially, that's been carved into one of the mushroom trees. And after a moment, comes back with large bit of actual parchment. Like, you've never seen paper like this. This is real parchment. And what looks akin to a fountain pen, except it is made out of a feather, which seems to turn into wood at the end, which leaks a bright green sap.
Hey, thanks, Liosh. You're a fun guy.
Yes. Slilsh is happy to meet you.
So, we can, like, read over this and sign our name, and it's just the same as, like, saying the vow out loud? Or the oath, should I say?
Yes. Speak the oath. Write your name if
Oh,
you do not wish to speak. Your name.
okay. Do you want us to, like, say the oath completely?
Yeah, sure. If you each could recite it in character, that'd be fine.
I
And you would
vow.
all understand that essentially names do hold power, so it isn't necessarily wrong to, write it down. And this is essentially asking for what your character in their heart of hearts essentially considers their true name. Where that could be your actual name, or it could be a name your keeper gave you. And that could be something to even keep secret depending on how your character prefers things.
I vow by my name, Victoria Elizabeth Rosen, that I shall never enact physical violence, hostile or manipulative contracts, or theft of any kind within the Brevon Goblin Market. I shall pay the price for what I purchase or take honestly and to the best of my ability, so long as doing so does not break this oath. I shall not refuse a product I have paid for willingly and knowingly. I shall uphold any consensual business-related pledge within for its set duration.
I
Shliush.
vow by my name, Rumi Akavian, that I shall never enact physical violence, hostile or manipulative contracts, or theft of any kind within the Brevon Goblin Market. I shall pay the price for what I purchase or take honestly and to the best of my ability, so long as doing so does not break this oath. I shall not refuse a product I have paid for willingly and knowingly. I shall uphold any consensual business-related pledge within for its set duration.
It turns
Sam
to you.
kind of takes the paper with shaky hands. I vow by my name, Sam, that I shall never enact violence, hostile or manipulative contracts, or theft of any kind within the Brevon Goblin Market. I shall pay the price for what I purchased and take honestly and to the best of my ability, so long as doing so does not break this oath. I shall not refuse a product I have paid for willingly and knowingly. I shall uphold any consensual business-related pledge within for its set duration.
As each of you speak the oath and finally finish speaking it, you can feel an overwhelming sensation as the word wraps itself around you, binding you. You can feel the very essence of your being deeply tie itself, like a chain almost, to this place, to the Braven Goblin Market. You feel that forever, after this point, you will have made this contract. This is not something that will ever go away. And never again will you be the same changeling that made this contract. You will forever be someone who has visited the Braven Goblin Market. And then Shliush and Migas step aside, each of them beckoning and welcoming you in as you step forward into the Braven Goblin Market. And that is where we are going to end it for today.
Nice.